Hello, Dave. Thank you, first of all, for your presentation. And let me quickly introduce myself. I'm Marius. I'm a Jira consultant at Cybert Media. And today I'm joined by my colleague, Johannes, as well. And yeah, thank you very much for your time. And now let's get into a Q&A session about some Jira questions we have. So without further ado, let's start with the first one. So performance is crucial for us and a lot of our customers and their companies. So can you say some words on how many users a Jira system can handle very well?
Yeah, it's a good point. I think it's top of mind for almost every enterprise customer that we have today. And within Atlassian, it's our absolute number one focus overall across the engineering teams on both our server and data center products and in the cloud. I would say at the end of the day, performance for both data center and cloud is a partnership between Atlassian and our customers. There's no, for data center, for both data center and cloud specifically, there's no specific number of users that we can guarantee that Jira supports. When I remember, in 2013, I attended a talk from the Jira administrator at Autodesk at Summit, and he was talking about scaling, how they scaled Jira to 1 million issues. And that was very impressive at the time. And now we have, dozens, potentially hundreds of customers that have 1 million issues in their system. And what's happened between 2013 and 2020 is that Atlassian's invested heavily in making sure that we've introduced data center. We've made sure that both server and data center and cloud can all scale much more than they could at the time. And we've learned a lot more about what factors drive Jira performance. So it's not just the number of people using the system. Sometimes that's a good proxy, but it's also the number of custom fields you have and the number of searches you're doing and the types of scripts and integrations that you have. Where are those users located? All of those can have an effect. And that's why when you get to the largest end of the spectrum, like you really need to make sure that there's a partnership, whether it's between a customer and a channel partner, an expert who has expertise in performance, or Atlassian's technical account managers or premier support teams. And then at the same time, on the Atlassian side, we've continued to invest, whether it's in data center with things like rate limiting and cluster monitoring, or in cloud, we've increased the user limits from 2,000 to 5,000 to 10,000 users today, and we're expecting to be double that within the next 12 months. And like both of those are ultimately about understanding those different factors that affect performance, and making sure that we can use the user guidelines that we provide as a relative proxy for trying to give customers a sense of guidance. But at the end of the day, it's going to depend on a lot of different factors for each customer. But hopefully that provides some kind of level of guidance.
Yeah, thank you very much. So regarding that topic, can you share some experiences that big companies made with Jira at scale or the Atlassian stack in general? So for example, what are pitfalls or what works really well?
Yeah, I spend a lot of time in my role today talking to some of our biggest customers about how they can move from really scaled server and data center deployments to Atlassian's cloud, and beyond building up a technical expertise to scale this server and data center offerings. The things that I think really, that's something that ultimately, if you have enough budget, you can find the experts that can help you solve the technical problems. But in order for Jira or Confluence to or any of our products to be successful at scale, you need a lot more than technical expertise. And so the things that really make the product successful the product is successful when the company is bought into using the product. And the number one way to do that is to go from just having administrators for the products to champions for the products. So the more that an admin or IT leadership within a company invests in the administrators of Jira, and invest in their certification, their training, their experience over time, that's that puts the admins in a position to focus not just on keeping the system up and running, but actually working with the various business teams, the stakeholder teams, to understand, well, what are your needs? Is it a marketplace app that we might help us get more value? Is it solving a performance problem? Is it putting in place better governance that will help teams standardize projects? Those are things that that really differentiate a experienced administration team from a less experienced team. A lot of our biggest deployments, they work closely with our channel partners, or they develop that expertise in-house. On the flip side, pitfalls, the number one pitfall we typically see is customers who haven't secured buy-in on the Atlassian products from their leadership teams. So the company leadership doesn't understand what value Atlassian products provide to the company. And then that means that instead of asking questions around, okay, how can we invest in that administration team? The administration team is spending all of their time justifying why we're spending any money on Atlassian products at all. And then for the teams themselves, there's frequently a tendency to, I think, become too top-down and too prescriptive. Jira, we know, runs better when it's well organized, and you don't accumulate a lot of configuration or technical debt. But at the same time, you can take the spectrum too far and say everybody has to run the exact same process, and there's no room for customization or flexibility, and then that creates a situation where the where the end users of Jira resent Jira. And it's not that they resent Jira, the product, they resent the way that Jira has been configured for them. And that's going to lead to less buy-in on the value of the tool. And then you go back to the circle of justifying why you're spending any money on the tool.
Okay, thank you. So you've mentioned data center, but what are some typical indicators that make you recommend a change from Jira Server to Jira Data Center?
Yeah, I think the number one is just the number one indicator that we see is just companies that are experiencing or planning to experience rapid growth in the amount of Jira usage within the company. So that can come in two forms. One is, the company itself is just growing, or you're, expanding Jira from a single department or a single division to broad adoption through the company, or you're going from software development use case to having the business teams perhaps be more involved in Jira, or you're just moving additional company processes. Maybe you had Jira alongside other development tools, and now you're consolidating everything on Jira. And all of those would say, all right, Jira is becoming more mission critical at the company. So it's not necessarily about the number of people using Jira as much as when the dynamics have shifted and the salience, the relative importance of Jira to the success of the company has increased. On top of that, we provide a lot of resources, and then our partners can provide even more on how you can benchmark and monitor performance of Jira on server and analyze whether there would, and if you're running into problems with performance on server, we provide assessments that will allow you to understand whether moving to data center would solve performance problems. Sometimes those come from geo-distribution, or you have something like internal integrations or scripts that are hitting Jira very hard, and that's causing a performance impact. And that can lead to and a data center is more set up to solve those types of problems. But at the end of the day, it all comes back to thinking about what is the role of Jira within the company. And if it's going to get a lot bigger over time, then data center is the place that we think every customer should be in.
Thanks for that insight. So if we're talking about big companies, we have like a corporate IT with many other systems, and let's say you need to connect the Jira system to ERP systems, for example, Salesforce, maybe asset management. What's the best way or the Jira way to connect and integrate with these other systems?
I don't know if there's a Jira way to connect those systems. When we think about building Jira, we're really trying to make sure that we provide a lot of flexibility for our customers. And that's one of the things that, over the past 20 years has made Jira successful. That said, I would say when we think about the role of Jira within the company, Atlassian really sees the ultimate solution that Jira provides is it's the system of record for the work that's going on in the company. And so whether it's a ERP system or Salesforce system, so you have a software development task and it's related to a request from a specific customer. And that's the rationale for why you would have an integration between Jira and Salesforce, potentially. Same with asset management. You're doing elements of work on the assets. The specific implementations, whether it's you do a custom integration and you either hire a team in-house to build a plugin for server, a data center, or an app in cloud that can do that type of integration. On cloud, we've introduced a whole new development platform called Forge that allows developers to run apps that are hosted by Atlassian, managed by Atlassian on Atlassian infrastructure to try to simplify that process. And then there's a lot of partners that will build custom integrations as well. We have the Marketplace, which is probably our top recommended app if you want something out of the box. Top recommended solution if you want something out of the box. There's you mentioned asset management and ERP, and there's dozens of apps in the Marketplace for all the deployment platforms that do that out of the box. And we've invested a lot in building those partnerships. So we have strategic partnerships with Salesforce, with Splunk, with Slack and Microsoft on teams to try to build tighter first-party integrations. And then the last piece is scripts or one-off integrations. On Data Center, we're introducing support for OAuth 2, which should make this type of integration a lot easier, and even trying to improve security as well with stuff like personal access tokens to replace basic auth. So if you have a script, you don't want to be using a username and password to set up that integration.
Yeah, it's great to hear and good that you keep the system open and to have it accessible from outside. There's another question. This is more or less touching the cloud. So data security is kind of a big issue around Germany, in Europe, and what are your plans to address this issue and this sensitivity in terms of server location? What's on your roadmap?
Now we're getting into my sweet spot. This is what I spend all day talking about. So I'll assume this question is 100% about cloud, because when you're hosting it yourself, data security is your own problem. But for our cloud offering, we absolutely hear this more than any other topic, especially from our German customers. So we've launched the Atlassian Cloud Enterprise Plan, which is our largest, most scaled plan for Jira for our enterprise customers, and that includes data residency guarantees. So we support data residency within the EU. We have 2 data center presences. In locations where we are running Atlassian Cloud on we use AWS for our infrastructure, but as a customer, you don't necessarily see that. But the locations where our infrastructure is running in cloud are in Frankfurt and in Dublin. So typically what happens is a customer's primary data would be stored in Frankfurt, and then the backup would be stored in Dublin. And that allows us to keep data fully within the European Union while also providing disaster recovery. Looking towards the future, we know that there's a number of customers that need not just EU data residency, but potentially Germany-specific data residency. For that, we're working on making sure that we can provide both data location guarantee and then also disaster recovery commitments while keeping all the data just within Germany, and supporting different data types, so we can make sure that 100% of data, whether it's kind of what we consider secondary data, so not necessarily like the data that the user has typed into the Jira issue, but the log of user-made requests to URL are also all stored within Germany. On top of that, there's a bunch of other things that go into data security. So Atlassian shipped for cloud data encryption at rest, in addition to encryption in transit. We've delivered a number of different compliance certifications, like ISO 27K, and I think that our GDPR protections are industry leading within enterprise SaaS. So we provide very tight controls on the ability for users to restrict the visibility of their personal information, to allow administrators to run the right to be forgotten process the way that they want to. That's going to be a continued investment over time.
It's great to hear that you're busy on that, these issues, and a lot of things are happening around there. Another question concerning the cloud product. What is a typical feedback or experience customers do when they switch to cloud from another Jira product?
Yeah, the things that we get feedback on the most, without a doubt, are probably the new issue view in Jira and the new editor in Confluence. We're really proud to say that we obviously those are big changes to the user interface, and the biggest thing that users typically have to adjust to when they're migrating from server or data center to cloud. We also have been monitoring feedback on the old versions of those views that we had in cloud before, and we've crossed a big milestone where we have more positive feedback from the new Confluence editor than the old one, and more positive feedback on the new issue view than we had on the old issue view. The other things that customers really love about cloud are the depth of integration. So we are able to offer much more powerful integrations with things like Office 365 and Slack, and development tools like CI systems, that sort of thing, and the ability to collaborate with folks externally. And so a lot of customers run into challenges giving external people access to Jira when it's running on their internal network, and cloud opens that up and simplifies that a lot more. Obviously, there are plenty of areas where we have customers still giving us feedback, looking for improvement. The two areas that are that we know that we still need to put in the most work, performance is number one, number two, and number three. We've made a lot of progress in performance, but it is still the number one area that we are investing in across there are more engineers working on performance than any other thing within the Jira team. And on top of that, the other one is what we call change management. So, and particularly for administrators, to give them more tool and more visibility into when changes are going to be released to the system or deployed from Atlassian and more control over those. So we introduced a new capability called release tracks with our enterprise plan as well. And so release tracks allows administrators, for example, to, instead of having changes released on a continuous basis, they're bundled and then deployed once every 2 weeks. And you get release notes ahead of time on the changes that are upcoming to your instance, so you can prepare a little bit more.
Thanks for the honest answer.
Yeah. So let's switch back from Jira Cloud to another topic. So right now we've come to notice that Atlassian is right now growing itself by acquiring different app vendors. And what our question would be is, how will this affect and influence your product? So for example, will there be a better integration between the different apps and the base Jira functionalities? Will there be some sort of other impact that users will notice?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of strategy that goes into acquisitions, and I'm definitely, I personally haven't been deeply involved in any of the acquisitions that we've done recently, but at a high level, as somebody who's, involved in M&A generally, I would say, Atlassian strategically is not just looking to take popular apps in the marketplace and bolt them onto the product. That's why they're in the marketplace to begin with. And the evidence for that is that the apps that Atlassian has acquired, whether they're apps that were built for Atlassian in the marketplace or just other acquisitions Atlassian has made, we're not. If our only goal was to take popular apps, we would have probably started with the most popular apps, and that's not what's happened. There's lots of very popular apps that we have no plans to acquire. What really happens is Atlassian starts first and foremost with a strategy around the product and areas where we believe that we need to strengthen the product, and then we look at what are the options for strengthening that strategic area of the product, whether that's building something in-house, acquiring a company that has nothing to do with Atlassian, has never heard of Atlassian, or a company that is maybe the other end of the spectrum, a company founded by former Atlassian employees, and everything in between too. So something like automation like that didn't start from, oh, this is a really great app, let's acquire it. It started from Atlassian believing that automation is critical to the future of Jira, and there's an opportunity between the capabilities that we saw that we believe Jira needs to have in order to be a successful product, not just to sell more Jira in 2021, but to be an industry-leading product in 2025, and marry it with the investments Atlassian is making itself in machine learning and artificial intelligence. But then that we have an app that is already tightly integrated, already understands Jira really well, and those are some of the advantages that acquiring from the marketplace have over a third-party product. Primarily, it's just an understanding of our customers and understanding of the product that we don't have to build up, which allows us to bring the integrated value to customers faster.
Okay, thank you very much for these insights. They're really helpful for us and our work. So another question would be, we have a lot of customers that have, or that they come from a, let's say, traditional background with a lot of different hierarchy levels. And what we would like is to ask you if there's any idea for extending the standard issue hierarchy. So right now we have, for example, we have the subtask, the story, and the epic levels inside of Jira products. But what ideas or what use cases are there to add different hierarchy levels?
Yeah, I'm definitely not a deep expert in Agile at scale, but to that point, Atlassian, especially since our acquisition of Jira Align, has focused really hard on not just having great agile software development for individual teams, but making sure that we have a consistent strategy for doing agile software development at all the different levels of the hierarchy. So we've actually combined the teams working on roadmaps for Jira, advanced roadmaps, what we previously called Jira Portfolio, and Jira Align into a single team that we're calling Agile as it scales. And the idea behind that is to make sure that across all of our different software development solutions that we have, that they all work cleanly together, and that we actually have a good story for how we can graduate from individual team just needs to plan task stories and epics in the roadmap, to a program level view where you're looking across an entire department, to a executive level view where you need to connect those software development products to business software development initiatives to business outcomes. On the technical level, about actually introducing more levels to the hierarchy, we have introduced more flexibility within next-gen projects in Jira software. I expect that to be a continued investment going forward. Simultaneously, we've introduced a huge new update to advanced roadmaps in Jira Software Cloud back in April. And so we took a lot of what we had learned and discovered was very successful with Portfolio for Jira 3.0 in server and data center, and we brought that to cloud as well. And so we're trying to make sure that whether you're using next-gen projects or classic projects, whether you're operating at the team level or the department level or the executive level, there's a solution for you. But I'll have to get back to you on like the actual technical, whether we're going to introduce more hierarchy levels. Obviously, there's marketplace apps that solve that problem if you need that today.
Okay, yeah, sounds good to me. So another question regarding this topic. We, as a relatively big company, have many dependencies between different teams. So for example, our different development teams have a lot of interdependencies between one and another. And Jira provides a massive amount of information that we can, sometimes it seems a little bit overwhelming. So what would be a good way to work with these challenges in a transparent way?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing that our tools can do to overcome a company culture that's not collaborative, is the first thing I would say. So I can share a couple of things that Atlassian does internally in the ways we use our tools. But before I go into any of those, I would say first and foremost, you have to have teams that are committed to actually resolving dependencies across the teams. Some things that Atlassian does internally in the way we use Jira. One is, and you might have heard Atlassian talk about this before, we have a system we call Project Central that's built on top of the Jira project. So every project at Atlassian that has, basically the guideline is if there's more than 2 people working on it for more than 2 weeks, it needs to be in Project Central. And basically each Project Central, like we have an issue type called project, and you describe what you're doing, why you're doing it, what the goal is, whether it's on track, whether it's at risk, when the expected completion date is, and you provide a weekly update. And those get rolled up. Anybody at the company can watch anybody else's project and get the updates. We took that to the next level over the past year and introduced a new Jira project around actually doing dependency management, where we had basically every dependency that one team had it on another team, that we created a ticket where we just documented like, hey, we're our next months of development. Here's something that we're going to need from you. All right, and here's when we're going to need it. Are you going to be able to deliver it? And it wasn't necessarily that those conversations weren't happening previously, but having the structure of tracking it all in Jira made it a lot better to, you're kind of, as Atlassian itself grows, Atlassian's, twice the size it was a couple of years ago. We needed more scalable processes for saying it's, not just documenting like that, those commitments in writing, but also being able to say, all right, now we can pull a list together of here are my top 5 dependencies where I haven't gotten a commitment from the team that I'm dependent on. And I can put that report in front of my executive sponsor and say, if I need to escalate these because if I don't get these commitments, here's the impact it's going to have on my roadmap. And then we take those throughout the rest of the year and we say, all right, we're going to put them on, we're just going to take a Jira report, put it on a Confluence page, and then set up, bi-weekly or monthly dependency check-in meetings between teams where we just run through all of those dependencies. And we continue to use the project over time throughout, not just once a year up front, but on a recurring basis as we discover new dependencies or make strategy changes that require us to, set up new connections between teams. So I would say the most important thing to managing dependencies in Jira is using Confluence well.
Cool. I'm keen to see who of our customers is going to try your Atlassian approach in their own company. I've got another question.
To that point, like there are some, we do have some blogs that describe how we're doing this. So, and we'll probably have more in the future. So I highly encourage you to subscribe to the Atlassian newsletter because it's the best way to get that sort of thing.
Cool. I've got another question for you. Jira is doing very well in Scrum and in Kanban, so these frameworks are mapped well to the software. Are there any frameworks you're looking into in which you try to implement or which are guiding your development for Jira?
Do you mean like a product development framework or
No, I was thinking about like project management frameworks other than Kanban, Scrum. Do you want Jira to enable people doing save or less, or what else you can think of?
Yeah, that's a good question. We don't, Atlassian, from the very beginning has tried to be, agnostic as possible. I think that's part of why Jira is successful, is that it doesn't force you into one specific way of doing Apple development, one specific way of doing IT service management. And actually, if you'd asked me when I was working on the Jira team, I would have said like the Jira team's instance of Jira, like most professional Jira administrators would be horrified at the way the Jira team is actually doing using Jira for agile software development. And that's because Atlassian gives our teams a lot of flexibility to run their processes the way they want. So each team is empowered to run their own software development process. At a high level, there's 3 big areas that Atlassian as a company is investing in. The first one is Agile at scale. And so we are, that's not necessarily the safe framework as much as making sure that our Agile processes and that end-to-end software development lifecycle can scale up to larger and larger companies. The second one is DevOps. And so we've invested very heavily in, no specific DevOps framework as much as making sure that we have really tight integrations with the different tools that would live within a DevOps lifecycle, like CI/CD tools and deployment management tools and infrastructure management tooling, to make sure that we have a completed DevOps solution. And then finally, ITSM, or in the future thinking, IT ops. And so making sure that we have a CMDB solution, that we have service and change management strategies and request management strategies that we can share with our customers, and that Jira Service Desk is flexible enough to solve for those.
Cool. Dave, I've got one last question for you. You've touched the newsletter. You thought we should definitely subscribe. But anything else? If we're looking, or if someone else owning IT processes or decision makers in companies, can they look to for support, or where can they look for support? Is it Partner Network, Atlassian? What good ideas and hints can you give us?
Just email me. I'm kidding.
We do, definitely do.
Yeah, I think this is the first time I've ever plugged the newsletter, but I've worked at Atlassian for almost 10 years now, so I've seen, it really makes me proud about how much better we are at providing our customers with resources, but even more proud to see how much progress we've made in helping customers provide resources and help each other. So the first place that I would tell every customer to look for guidance is the Atlassian community, whether that's the Atlassian community online, community.atlassian.com, or if we someday in the future we'll have whether they're virtual or maybe someday again in person, Atlassian community events and that are hosted all over the globe. Like, that's the best way to learn face to face from Atlassian customers who've done it before. On top of that, Atlassian's provided a ton of resources, whether it's scaling or migration guidance or implementing different frameworks. There's a lot more documentation online about how to do that. And then for the customers that really need tailored, customized guidance, our channel partners, folks like Cyber Media, are a huge part of what makes Atlassian successful, because they're able to get on the ground with individual customers and learn about their needs and provide tailored recommendations. They're more Atlassian's partners know far more about how to get the most out of Jira for any individual industry or company's use case than anybody at Atlassian ever could. And Atlassian tries to supplement it as best we can with our technical account management program for customers that really need high-level technical guidance from Atlassian, and Premier support, where we'll have support engineers who are dedicated to your company and can really understand your environment and your use cases. And then finally, Summit. Obviously, Summit was virtual this year. It'll be virtual in 2021, but that didn't stop. We actually reached 3 or 4 times as many people as we ever had before with Summit, and that's where our customers share stories on how they have scaled Jira, how they've applied Jira in specific cases, and it's a huge. The Summit backlog, or back library of talks, is a really valuable resource as well.
Great. So there's many ways to keep in touch and get in touch and ask your questions. Thank you, Dave, for being here with us and answering all our questions. I learned a lot, and we thank you, and we thank everybody for watching and listening.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Cool. So see you around. Bye-bye.
Bye.